The teacher who changed my life. When I was in grade 10, my school welcomed a new English teacher. His name was Mr. Alex Scott, a young and charismatic man with dark hair and warm brown eyes. At just 24 years old, Mr. Scott was not only a teacher but a subject of admiration for many of us. His youthful energy and good looks made him popular among students, especially the girls. During breaks, they would often gather near his classroom just to catch a glimpse of him. Mr. Scott had an effortless charm. He was kind, polite, and always patient with us. He would smile at everyone and make small talk with other teachers, earning their respect as well. Despite being surrounded by young teachers eager to chat with him, Mr. Scott kept a professional demeanor and always prioritized his teaching. As a shy and introverted student, I found myself drawn to him. I couldn't participate in the same banter my classmates enjoyed, but I admired Mr. Scott from afar. I made sure never to miss his classes and always submitted my homework on time. Every day, I did my best to excel in his class, hoping to impress him with my work. Sometimes, I would wear my favorite dress to class, hoping he would notice me. When he called on me to answer a question, my heart raced with excitement and nervousness. My hands would shake, and I could barely hold my pen, but I always answered as best as I could. Mr. Scott always praised my efforts, saying, "Good job, Emma," and that made me feel incredibly happy. I spent that whole year thinking about him. He became a fixture in my mind, even in my dreams at night. One day, I discovered that Mr. Scott lived near my neighborhood. I couldn't resist and began walking by his house, hoping for a chance to see him. And sometimes, if I was lucky, I would catch a glimpse of him. He would wave and smile, and if he was with his friends, I felt a pang of jealousy. However, in grade 11, something unexpected happened. Mr. Scott left the school to take a new job in a city far away. I was devastated. I missed him terribly. I even walked past his old house, but he was no longer there. Months passed, and I focused on preparing for my university exams. I decided to attend extra English classes to improve further. To my astonishment, on the very first day of the course, I walked into the classroom and saw Mr. Scott standing at the front. I could hardly believe my eyes. He smiled at me and said, "Welcome back, Emma." My heart skipped a beat. For 6 months, I worked hard in his class. I became one of his top students. We began to stay after class to talk. He asked me about my future aspirations, and I asked about his new life. One day, he surprised me by offering to walk me home. It was something I never expected, but I was thrilled. From that day forward, he walked me home almost every day. As we spent more time together, our bond deepened. We went to the park, watched movies, and talked for hours. I remember our first kiss. It was like a scene from a romantic film. I thought Mr. Scott was the perfect man, the man I had dreamed of all those years. But then, reality struck. He told me he had been offered a job in the United States, and he had to leave. I was heartbroken. We promised to stay in touch through letters, but as time passed, the letters grew fewer. I started college, and our communication faded completely. 8 years went by. One day, while browsing social media, I saw Mr. Scott's profile. I sent him a message, and to my surprise, he replied. We decided to meet. I was excited to see him again. I dressed up, feeling a mix of emotions, and met him at a cafe. When I saw him, I was taken aback. He had changed. He was older now, and his appearance had transformed. His hair wasn't as blonde, and his blue eyes didn't shine the way they used to. We talked for hours, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. The connection I once felt was no longer there. He was still the person I had known, but the feelings I had for him as a young girl were no longer the same. After the meeting, I reflected on how much we had changed over the years. I realized that what had been so important to me as a teenager wasn't as significant now. We grow, and we change, and sometimes, the things we once cherished become distant memories. I'll always have fond memories of Mr. Scott. He was a big part of my youth. But I also understood that my feelings for him had faded. I was a different person now, and so was he. A week after we met, I received a message from Mr. Scott. He thanked me for the meeting and hoped we could remain friends. I responded, "Thank you, Mr. Scott. It was nice seeing you again. I wish you all the best." That night, I walked in the park near my house. It started raining, and I remembered the times Mr. Scott had walked me home in the rain. I smiled to myself and thought, life is like rain. Sometimes it feels cold and lonely, but it also helps new flowers grow. I still remember Mr. Scott from time to time, but now I look back on those memories with a sense of peace. He was a part of my story, but not the end. Life is full of surprises, and sometimes the best moments come when we least expect them.